2017, Roger Federer
Roger Federer never looked like he was working. That's the trick. That's the whole illusion. While everyone else on tour was grinding and grunting and sweating through every point, Federer floated through matches like he'd already seen the future. But here's what nobody tells you. Underneath that effortless style was some of the most brutal, calculated physics in the history of the sport. Today we're breaking down exactly how he did it, shot by shot, and by the end you'll never watch a Federer clip the same way again. Start with the serve, because this is where the deception begins. Federer almost never blasted serves past 130 miles per hour. He didn't have the raw cannon that guys like Andy Roddick had. And yet he racked up more than 11,400 career aces and held his serve at a jaw-dropping 88.8%. How does a guy without a rocket arm dominate like that? Mechanical efficiency. A deep knee bend loads up explosive energy in the trophy position. Then his arm stays loose enough to whip the racket head through contact, using pure rotational speed instead of muscle. But the real weapon is disguise. Federer's ball toss looked identical every single time, whether he was about to smash a flat serve down the middle, slice one wide, or kick one high into your body. Zero tells. Returners were left guessing blind, every single time. Now here's something wild Federer barely ran. Not because he was lazy, because he didn't need to. At the 2019 Wimbledon tournament, Novak Djokovic covered almost 14 meters per point on average. Federer, just over 11 meters. That gap adds up to kilometers of saved energy across a long tournament. And it all comes down to anticipation. His split step synced perfectly with his opponent's contact point, landing on the balls of his feet at the exact right instant to explode in any direction. He wasn't chasing the ball. He was already standing where it was going to land. Then there's the forehand, the shot people still call poetry. Most pros swing with a bent elbow. Federer hit with a completely straight arm at contact, which sounds small but changes everything. Because a longer radius at the same rotational speed means a dramatically faster racket head. He was basically turning his arm into a whip. The numbers back it up: roughly 2,700 revolutions per minute of topspin, almost matching Rafael Nadal, but flatter and more penetrating. His average forehand cracked across the net around 76 miles per hour, and when he leaned into an inside-out winner, that number jumped past 100. And through all that violence, his head stayed locked on the contact zone for a full second after the ball left the strings, keeping his shoulders from flying open too early. The backhand gets called effortless too, and that's the biggest lie in tennis. It's actually one of the most torque-loaded shots in the game. Federer generated a massive shoulder rotation, turning his back fully to the net before uncoiling like a loaded spring. Where Nadal's two-handed backhand spun at over 1,150 revolutions per minute, Federer's one-hander only spun around 548. But that's the point: he hit flatter and earlier, robbing opponents of reaction time by taking the ball on the rise. His backhand speed sat around 60 miles per hour, nothing crazy on paper. But the timing made it feel unplayable. Now flip to the slice, because this is where things get genuinely insane. Nadal's legendary forehand tops out around 3,200 revolutions per minute of topspin. Jannik Sinner walked out for his first match with no idea he would almost lose it. 2 weeks later, he was still standing, drenched in sweat, holding a trophy no Italian man had ever defended before. He beat blood, bad nerves, and the game's biggest server to get there. This is the full story of how Jannik Sinner just made history at Wimbledon. Before any of this happened, Novak Djokovic gave a warning. 2 days before the final, he talked about facing Alexander Zverev on grass. He said you cannot read his first serve. He said the ball comes in wide, down the middle, or straight at the body, and there is no way to guess which one is next. Djokovic knew this from experience. He had just lost to Zverev's serve in the semifinal. But Djokovic did not lose to Zverev. He lost to Sinner. 2 rounds earlier, in the semifinal, Sinner beat Djokovic in straight sets. That win meant more than it looked like on paper. Months earlier, at the Australian Open, Djokovic had beaten Sinner. This was payback, and Sinner took it clean. No fifth-set drama, no slow start. He shut the door and moved on to the final. That win also gave Djokovic something else to remember him by. During that tournament, Djokovic became the oldest man to ever reach a Wimbledon semifinal in the modern era. He broke Roger Federer's record for the most match wins in Wimbledon history. He played the longest quarterfinal the tournament has ever seen, over 5 hours long. Djokovic gave everything he had. It still was not enough to stop Sinner. By beating the most loved champion in the sport on the biggest stage, Sinner proved something. His run to the final was not luck. It was control. Djokovic has been chasing his 25th Grand Slam title for years now, and every young star in the sport keeps getting in his way. This time it was Sinner, and he did it without dropping a set. Djokovic was asked after the loss if he would come back to Wimbledon next year at 40 years old. He said yes, at least one more time. A champion who cannot leave this place alone, even after losing to the man who is now writing the next chapter of the sport. But 2 rounds before that semi-final, control was the last thing Sinner had. In the first round, Sinner played Miomir Kecmanovic. On paper, this should have been simple. Sinner had never lost a single set to him before. Instead, the match ran 3.5 hours and went the full 5 sets. Here is the number that shows how rare this was. The last time Sinner had won a 5-set match was the 2024 Australian Open final. Since then, he had lost 8 of his next 9 matches that reached a deciding set. The pressure of a 5th set had become his biggest weakness. In the first set, Sinner was up 40-love on his own serve. Then he lost 9 points in a row. The best player in the world just handed the game away. In the third set, he slipped on the grass, got up and slipped again. This time his knee buckled. He kept playing, but blood started coming through his shoe. He still won. His serve carried him. He hit 31 aces that day, but he also made 52 unforced errors, more than double what he normally allows. It was messy. It was far from perfect, but it was a win, and it sent a message to the rest of the draw. Every other player left in the tournament saw a champion who could be pushed to the edge. Some of them thought that meant Sinner was cracking. They were wrong. That match on day 1 turned out to be the only time in the entire tournament that Sinner looked human. From that point forward, he dropped just 2 more sets across 6 rounds, both of them decided by tiebreaks. The man who almost lost in round 1 walked into the final having barely been tested since. While Sinner was fighting off Kecmanovic and grinding past Djokovic, Alexander Zverev was building the best few months of his career. 6 weeks before Wimbledon, he had won his first Grand Slam title at the French Open. He arrived at Wimbledon not as an underdog anymore, but as a champion who finally silenced years of criticism. Zverev had never beaten Sinner in 9 tries. He had never even taken a set off him in 14 straight sets played across their past matches. But this was a different Zverev. He had a Grand Slam trophy behind him, and it showed in the first set of the final. Both men held serve through the entire first set. No breaks, no mistakes. Novak Djokovic beat both future world number 1s back-to-back to end his season. He tied the record for most Grand Slam titles by any man in history. He did all this at 36 years old, 1 year after being kicked out of a country and banned from a major tournament. Most players fade by their mid-30s. Djokovic got stronger. This is the story of how he did it and why the tennis world almost didn't let him finish the job. Today, fans cheer for Djokovic almost everywhere he plays. Young players call him a mentor. Rivals say he is one of the kindest people on tour. But this love did not come easy. For most of his career, Djokovic was the guy fans loved to boo. Before we get to why, let's talk about what changed on the court first, because that part of the story explains everything else. Djokovic turned pro in 2003. For years, he was talented but inconsistent. He retired from matches often. He struggled with breathing problems. Fans thought he was faking injuries to avoid tough losses. Then in 2010, doctors found the real problem. Djokovic had a gluten intolerance. His body could not process the foods he was eating every day. He cut gluten and dairy from his diet. He added more vegetables, rice, and small clean meals. Within months, his energy on court changed completely. He also started practicing mindfulness for 15 minutes every day. Before this, he played scared in big moments. He admitted that he used to change his style depending on the score, playing safe instead of aggressive when it mattered most. Mindfulness fixed that. He learned to accept his thoughts instead of fighting them. This let him play every point like he already believed he would win it. The results were instant. In 2011, Djokovic won 43 matches in a row. He won 7 titles in a row. He finished the year 70-6. That season turned him from a good player into a legend in the making. Here is the part fans forget. As Djokovic got better, he got less popular, not more. Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal were already tennis royalty. Fans loved their rivalry. It felt complete with just the two of them. Then, Djokovic showed up and started beating both of them. Over and over. Fans did not see a new champion. They saw a party crasher. Every flaw Djokovic had got magnified because of this. When he smashed a racket, people called him unstable. When Federer or Nadal did the same thing, fans called it passion. When Djokovic called for a medical timeout, people assumed he was lying, even though doctors later confirmed real injuries almost every time. One example still shocks fans today. At the 2023 Australian Open, Djokovic played the entire tournament with a hamstring tear measuring 3 centimeters. His own coach said most players would have quit the tournament immediately. Djokovic stayed in and won the whole thing. But the hate reached its peak in 2022. Djokovic was deported from Australia over his vaccine status.